Okay? And the first one was, don't have any other gods. You know, make God the most important thing in your life. It's on. Now I'm actually on the sheet now. Okay? In Exodus chapter 20, God says this. It's the most important thing before you get to the Ten Commandments. God says, I am the Lord your God. Period. He's making a statement there. Hey, I'm it. I'm the Lord your God. They had just come out of Egypt. And Egypt had all kinds of gods. They worshipped all kinds of gods. You can still see some of those gods that they worship. The pyramids and the sphinxes. And they had all these gods they worshiped. They were going to go into a land that had all kinds of gods and idols. And God is saying to this group of people, here's what you need to know. I am the Lord your God. And probably most of us in this room would say the same thing. We would say, He is the Lord my God. We would say that. We would make that statement. Some of you, maybe not. Then he says, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. In other words, he's saying this is who I am. I'm the Lord your God. Here's what I did for you. I redeemed you. You were a slave in Egypt, and I set you free. And guess what? Listen. You were a slave to your sin. You were in bondage, Christian, to your sin. He didn't free you from slavery from a person necessarily. He redeemed you from something far greater. And that is sin. And then he says this. So, I'm the Lord your God. I redeemed you. I brought you out of slavery. And here we go. Because of those things, you're not going to have any other gods but me. I'm in. You put me first. I don't want to be second. I don't want to be third. You're going to put me number one because I am the Lord your God. I have redeemed you. So you make sure I'm number one. And then the second thing he says is this. In Exodus 20, you must not, verse 4, you must not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them. For I am the Lord your God. I am jealous God. I'm a jealous God who will not tolerate your affections for other gods. So he's saying this. I'm your God. I'm number one. And what I don't want you to do is what you saw for 400 years in Egypt. Or what you're going to see in this new land I'm going to give you. You're going to see all kinds of idols, graven images, people who whittled things and made things, and they bow down and they worship those things. They're all Pillsbury Doughboys. They can't do a thing. They can't talk. They can't, like shake your hand. They can't do a thing. And yet here are people worshiping these images that literally can't do a thing. You're not going to be like them. And it's interesting that God says, I don't want there to be an image of me. You know why? Because you're the Imago Dei. You're the image. You're it. God doesn't want you to make an image. He wants you to be the image. That's what he wants. I mean, I was thinking about this. Man, if I was God, I'd come up with something. Something that people could, I don't know, put in their living room. Something they could put in their car. Man. God says, no. I don't want you to have anything. Nothing. Not a thing. And it's a really, really interesting thought that we're going to unpack here in just a second. I wrote out here a little thing. What is an idol? Now I want to, and at the very end of it, I say, and oftentimes even good godly things can become an idol. And this is what I want to do just because of time. I'm going to give you, something, and I think we'll give you some context. There was a moment in Numbers chapter 21 where the Jewish people were really being jerks. They were being crummy. They were being sinful. And God has it up to here with them. And so he sends these poisonous snakes. And these poisonous snakes start biting the Jewish people. And if you got bit, you died. So there were people dying all around. Okay, imagine. There's all these snakes, people are dying. And the people come running back to Moses and they go, hey Moses, look man, we screwed up. We know we blew it. We've been griping, complaining. We've been, sinful. We've said crummy things against God, against you. Would you go to God and tell him that we're sorry kind of a thing and get rid of all these snakes? And so Moses goes, yeah. So he goes to God. And God says, okay, Moses, this is what I want you to do. Now, I want you to hang on. God says, I want you to get a pole. And I want you to put a snake on this pole. Like a bronze snake. Sounds like a graven image. And once you get that bronze snake all done, I want you to put it, kind of in the middle of town, kind of a thing. And if someone gets bit, they're walking around and, a viper gets them or whatever, they're to run to that bronze snake and they're to look at the snake and they're to believe in me. They're to believe that I will heal them from the venom. And if they do that, they'll live. So Moses goes back and builds this pole, and it's got this bronze snake on it, and people were getting bit, and they were running to the bronze snake. God, I believe you, God. And they would be healed. I'm sure there were quite a few people who got bit, who said, that's stupid. I'm not going to go to that snake. That's a, you guys, you people who believe in God, that's just really ridiculous. And I'm sure there were people who said, you know what, I'm just going to get better. I'm going to put some Neosporin on the thing and I'll get better. And there were people who died who didn't need to die, but they died. By the way, in John chapter 3, Jesus talks about this moment. He said, just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. Jesus is likening himself to this snake. Sin can be healed, just like the venom could be healed. The issue is you have to run to the cross and you've got to look at Jesus and believe. If you don't, you just die. So here was this snake, okay? Beautiful thing that God used in people's lives. Now, I wish I had time to unpack this, but if you look down at 2 Kings chapter, Numbers 21 says, so Moses made a snake, a bronze snake, attached to a pole, and then anyone who was bitten by a snake, he could look at the bronze snake and be healed. That's great. Now, 2 Kings 18 says this. Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, began to rule over Judea. He was 25 years old when he became the king, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 29 years. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestor David had done. He removed the pagan shrines. Okay, he's getting rid of all of the crummy things. Smashed the sacred pillars. that cut down the Asherah poles. Look at this next phrase. He broke up the bronze serpent that Moses had made because the people of Israel had been offering sacrifices to it. Okay, listen. 500 years have gone by, and that bronze snake is still up. And no longer is it a place where people would come and cry out to God and say, God, I need you in my life. Now it had become a place where people were actually worshiping the snake. They were worshiping the idol, the graven image. My point in bringing this story to your attention is that even good things can become crummy things. God's the one who told them to put that bronze snake up. It was a good thing. Saved lives. 500 years later, the people didn't even look at it as something that reminded them of God. It was something they were actually worshiping. So why is it so important? In Deuteronomy chapter 4, it says, for your own good then, make certain that you do not sin by making for yourself an idol in any form at all, whether man or woman, animal or bird, reptile or fish. Do not be tempted to worship and serve what you see in the sky, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I'm only giving you just a taste of what God says about idols. So why is it so important? Here's where you can fill in some blanks. And I only picked a couple. But number one, idols always lead people astray. They always lead people astray. In 1 Corinthians 12, now, dear brothers and sisters, regarding your question about special abilities that the Spirit gives us, I don't want you to misunderstand this. You know that when we were still pagans, you were led astray and swept along by worshiping speechless idols. Many people believe, or many people have been lured away by a promotion at work and were led astray to neglect their families at a crucial time in their lives. I picked a few things here just to give you a taste of some things. There are a lot of things that can lure you away from keeping God number one. And for a lot of people at this church, and for those of you who are new, I've been here 40 years. I can't tell you how many people were lured away from the faith. Messed up their whole lives, messed up their families. Many people have been lured away by the promise of fame and were led astray and compromised their integrity. Many people have been lured away by the motive of profit, more money, and were led astray and threw their convictions out the door. I don't know what you might think are some things that have lured you away, maybe from your walk with Jesus. Deuteronomy 11 says, but be careful. Don't let your heart be deceived, so that you turn away from the Lord and serve and worship other gods. Man. That was the issue in Exodus 20, is that these idols would somehow lead people astray, and God was really worried about it. God wants to be number one. And he knew there would be things out there that could just lure people away. And I don't know what those things are in your life. And I just wrote something here. In my opinion, if you allow another person in your life to control your life by their approval or disapproval or whatever, and choose what's right for you, even if it's the wrong thing, that's not just called codependency. I think it can also be called idolatry. Because that person has now become more important than God in your life. So the number one way to break codependency is to put God first in your life. And then number two, give your ultimate devotion to Him, and not to anybody else. And let me tell you what I see in your generation a lot. When you start dating, man, some of you, maybe it won't happen to you, I don't know, but you really love the Lord. He's really number one in your life. And I think other people see it. They see your devotion to Him. They see that He's number one. And then all of a sudden, you pick up, this guy or this gal, and you start dating. And the next thing you know, God's really not number one anymore. This person has lured you away, much like an idol did in biblical days. And the good news is I've done this long enough to where I've had a lot of people come back and go, man, I blew it, man. I let this guy or this gal just get the better of me. And I've repented of that sin. Man. I want you all to be careful. Nothing wrong with having a girlfriend, nothing wrong with having a boyfriend. But if that person becomes more important to you than God, it's an idol. It's just that simple. The second thing is idols always disappoint people. In Jeremiah chapter 10, it says, the Lord made the earth by His power. By His wisdom, He created the world and stretched out the heavens. At His command, the waters above the sky roar. He brings clouds from the ends of the earth. He makes lightning flash and rain and sends the wind from His storeroom. At the sight of this, people feel stupid and senseless. Those who make idols are disillusioned because the gods they make are false and lifeless. Look, whatever those things are in your life that may try to lure you away from the Lord, they're nothing compared to Jesus. Nothing. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what the title on your door says. It doesn't matter. It may give you a little bit of satisfaction for a little while. But when it's all said and done, man, idols just disappoint. And this is one of these great moments in your life at the age that you're at where you can go, man, I need to really evaluate this in my life. Because all of a sudden, you know what? You get a job, you get a career, and man, you want to make more money. And man, if I take this job, I can make more money. Yeah, well, I got to start working on weekends. I can't ever go to church anymore. I'm going to be away from my family a whole bunch. I won't see my kids as much. But you know what? I'm doing it for them because I want my kids to have a bigger house. I want my kids to have a bigger car. I want my kids to have a ski-doo. I want my kids to have a boat. You know what? Your kids don't want that crap. You know what your kids want? You! Your kids would rather live in an outhouse if they got dad and mom than in some big fancy house that has boats and cars and ski-doos and motorcycles and snow machines and all the stuff. But they never get to see you because you're always working. You're always busy. And I can't tell you how many men especially have tried to justify their lives and how they work by saying, well, I'm doing this for my family. No, you're not. You're not doing it for your family. If you were doing it for your family, you know what you'd do? You'd quit, go back to the job you had, and be happy with your 3-bedroom house and the 2 cars you had. Don't think that your kids wanted, 4 chimneys. Don't think your kids wanted, a 5-car garage. Don't think your kids needed you to have a BMW or a boat. You wanted that stuff. And now you're schlepping it off on your kids like it's their fault. And for a lot of guys, they find that out too late. Their jobs became an idol. It lured them away. Now, I have told all of you here, you guys are all at an age where you got to make enough money if you're going to get married to, pay the rent. You got to make enough. We're not going to get to the 10th commandment for a long time, and that is, don't covet. In other words, be content with what you have. That's number 10. Be okay with what you have. Be okay with, the 2-bedroom apartment you have. Be okay with, man, I can only afford this house. But what happens is you begin to look at maybe what your friends have. And your buddies, well, they got a bigger house. They live in a bigger neighborhood than I do. They drive in a better car than I'm driving. And you begin to covet. You're not content with what you got. Man, I got a man who loves me. I got a woman who loves me. I got a beautiful child who cares deeply about me. Every time my kid looks in my eyes, dude, it's like I'm a god. There's nothing more important to the children that you will have someday than you. Not, hey, I know I haven't seen you in a while, but we got a cool boat. Or I got the cabin up in the mountains. Glad you and mom can go to it every now and again, but I got to go to work again. I don't want that to happen to you. I want you to keep God number one and make sure there aren't anything out there that's influencing you, that's pulling you away from keeping Him number one. And being content with what you have, man. Because I want you to know something. At the end of the day, when all of a sudden your kids don't want to talk to you anymore, you'll go, man, all that stuff just disappoints. Yeah, it does. And when your wife goes, I'm done, not only does it disappoint, but she's going to get half of it. You're going to make payments for a long, long time. It disappoints in all kinds of ways. And number 3, before I send you off to, by the way, just watch any advertisement that's out there. And I just wrote this out. Idols, false gods, always promise more than they can deliver, which means they always disappoint. Think about most of the ads that you see on TV. Wear our label, and you'll be popular. Buy our product, and you'll be successful. Drink our liquor, and you'll be in the hip cool crowd. Buy our toothpaste, and you'll have sex with people. Just watch them and see what they're doing. See what they're doing. Man. And it's all around us. That's why you got to be careful. Number 3, idols always cheapen people. The great prophet Jeremiah said, listen to the Lord's message, you descendants of Jacob, you tribes of Israel. The Lord says, what accusation did your ancestors bring against me? What made them turn away from me? They worshipped worthless idols and became worthless themselves. When you're chasing after things that take you away from the Lord, it really does just cheapens the people around you.